video, we're going to be going through a series of spinal work, starting from the very easiest to the hardest in terms of spinal segmentation and spinal control. So when I first had my accident, my spine was extremely tender and sore, and I didn't really have much movement at all. And in order to start segmenting and getting back that movement and control, I had to start with a very, very basic stuff. I had to start with the very basics and work my way up slowly from there. I'm not saying that anyone with any kind of spinal injury should do this. You definitely have to go get checked out, get some scans and see your doctor. But if you've been cleared to exercise, if you've been cleared to do rehabilitation work, then you should be ready to do exercise number 1 in this series. Okay, so the first one is the very first exercise that actually got me moving my spine again. It seems hard at the time because your brain's just not managing to connect, but just keep trying with this one. You're going to keep your feet planted slightly over hip width, because I just find that easier, and a little bit of a bend in the knees. Your hips, you're going to concentrate on keeping exactly where they are, and you're going to think where your belly button is, you're going to be shifting from there. So I don't know why the person that taught me this did this, but it actually helps. So bringing the hands up to about chest height. It helps if you're watching yourself in a mirror, so you can keep an eye on these hips staying put, and you're just going to shift from the belly button like you're moving your ribs to the side. And as you're doing this, you'll notice you're actually using a fair amount of core control to keep yourself from shifting your hips. But also, if you start with just a tiny bit like this, that's okay. In the beginning, I think that's all I managed. And then within a few months, I was heading all the way out, managing to get my spine to do all of these movements as well. So with this, you should be feeling a little bit of burn in your core, but also you'll notice that you might be feeling a little bit in the QL and the sides of your body stretching as you go across. So you shouldn't feel any pain in the spine. If you are, then that's not a good sign. You might be pushing on a nerve or something. So don't go as far. And yeah, just take your time with this, because it does take time after an injury where you've had no movement to start feeling things again and getting your brain to actually get your body to do what it wants it to do.
What did you do just then?
What? No, I'm not going to do that again. So if you have had a spinal injury or you have back pain and you've had a scan and you're ready to do rehabilitation work and you're ready to do physiotherapy, then I definitely would also recommend actually doing a full movement screen of your full body. So getting a joint assessment, getting a movement assessment from head to toe, because if you're just looking at the spine only, that's not going to be the full picture, and it's also not going to be a very well-rounded rehabilitation program if you're not actually taking into consideration everything else that might impact your spine. So there's lots of ways you can actually do these online. You can follow videos to do assessments and get someone to have a look at them for you. But yeah, I'm going to leave a link in the description below so you can have a look at the different assessments and make sure that you have been assessed from the top down.
Okay, we're
Quiet.
recording. No.
Quiet. Okay, so we're going to do spinal waves next, and we're going to use the wall to help us learn the technique. So remember here is not to hyperextend your lower back, even though you will be moving it at points. You just don't want it hyperextended the whole time. So we're going to start not too far away from the wall. And we're going to aim nose, chin, collarbone, ribs, belly button, hips. And you can move your knees around a little bit. You can wiggle around as you need to do this, but just think of your spine the whole time. So from here, I'm leaving everything where it is, and I'm just aiming my nose, trying to keep everything else back here. Then just the chin, collarbone, chest, ribs, belly button, hips, and up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. See, that's too close. It's really hard to get the exact space from the wall, but yeah, bear in mind that's going to happen every time you do this probably. Another way to learn spinal waves is to try the hip hinge version. Here we are hip hinging down and then we begin the spinal wave. What you can do is slowly make your way higher and higher in the hip hinge so you're not hinging down as far with your body. This is surprisingly difficult to do, but it gives you a lot of practice in different dimensions doing the spinal wave. Okay, so we're going to be doing a thoracic wall stretch next, and we're going to be aiming to bring the chest to the wall without moving the hips. The hips are going to remain back here, so the arms come up. To make this easier, just come closer to a wall. So to begin with, you can start pretty close and just aim chest to the wall while your hips stay where they are. And as you get better, you can go back. The next version is kneeling, and we're going to do exactly the same thing. So hands up onto the wall, keeping the hips where they are, aiming chest to the wall. Now, if you particularly struggle with stretches, what you can do is take a nice big deep breath in, and as you're heading towards the wall, a long breath out, and as you're exhaling, that is when you're heading into your stretch, and that should help a little bit.
Start in a neutral position. Now bring your chin in towards your chest and tuck. Good. Now flex the upper back, the thoracic. Slowly work your way down the back, keep flexing. Into the lower back, that's a cat stretch, push all the way up. Now from there, maintain that position in the upper back and start to bring your belly button down towards the ground. So you're extending the lower back and you're going to work your way up, that same motion like a wave, up the back, bring in the head, up and extend fully into that stretched position. And we're going to reverse that again. So now we're going to do it from the chin down. Okay, keep the lower back where it is, push through the thoracic, push, 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 keep the lower back still. We're going to flex all the way down until we're back into that cat stretch, up, 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 and relax.
So the next variation is just to isolate the lumbar and sacrum, and we're going to do a little bit of thoracic movement in there as well, but it's not going to be full range like if you were in the quadruple position. So instead, you're going to bring your head between your elbows, and you're going to do the same. So next we're doing a variation of thoracic work. We're going to start with the easiest and end with the hardest. I've got tutorials already for these, so I'm going to link them in the description below so you can watch the full tutorial if you need to. So the first one, starting in a half kneeling position, rotate your arm behind you while continuing to watch your hand as you rotate. Pay particular attention to try to limit the amount of movement your knee is doing in front of you. So you should be working on stabilizing the hips as you rotate. So starting with the knees underneath the hips and the elbows underneath the shoulders, we're going to keep the hand on the back of the head and bring the elbow together and then bring the elbow up. Once that feels good, we're going to weave the arm through underneath the other arm and then bring the arm up to the sky and watch the hand. I'm going to link the tutorial in the description below, but you want to have your knee in line with your hip, ideally using something like a foam roller or a yoga block for support, and you're going to be using the top arm to reach as far forward as you can, and then you're going to be pulling back as if you're pulling on a bow and arrow, keeping the elbow nice and close to the body, brushing past your ribs, keeping your hand down, and then leading onto the other side, watching the hand, so turning the neck as well. Quite a lot of people find one side feels different than the other, and sometimes even it's hard to bring the shoulder all the way to the ground. That is not too unusual to begin with. With practice, this does get better. To begin, you're going to think of Dumbledore disapparating in front of the ministry.
Is that what he does?
Yeah, he does this. Okay, seriously.
I have to get back a bit so I can see what's going on. Alright.
So reaching nice and high with the arms, you're going to keep the hips level with each other as you lean sideways. The aim here is to control the range that you have rather than forcing any extra range that you do not have control over yet. So I use this as an intermediate because the band is like a constant tension pulling you, whereas this is actually a lot easier. So above head, make sure it's really, really light, like 1 or 2 kilos. Okay, so for this you can use a kettlebell to attach the band across from you. I'm just gonna stand on it. Amazingly, this doesn't actually pull me backwards, even though I thought it would. But what you don't want to be doing is pulling yourself backwards. So if this does feel like you're pulling backwards, don't do it. Make sure it's side on. Okay, so the next is Jefferson curls. They're at my absolute favorite. I'm going to go through a beginner's version all the way through to a more advanced version. Okay, beginner's version, you don't have to be on a box this high up. This is just all I've got. You can literally just use a step or no step at all. You could just do this on the ground. And we're not going to use any weight at all. We're just going to spinal segment all the way down, tucking the chin first, working our way down the spine until we reach the hands as far down as we possibly can. Usually you'd be doing feet together, knees locked, but for the absolute beginner's version, we're going to keep our feet hip width and a little bend in the knee as well. So this is going to be way, way easier. So it looks like this. Okay, so when you get comfortable doing that, that is when you can bring the feet together and lock the knees out. And then we're going to do exactly the same thing, learning how to control it with this different variation. So. To begin with, if you feel like sciatic or you feel like neural tension going down the back of your legs and your spine, that is fairly normal. Just make sure it's not intense. So listen to your body and adapt to the amount of pain that you're feeling. Eventually, with practice, this should start going away. Okay, so my weight of choice is always a kettlebell because it's nice and flat on one end and you can slide it down across the box. I'm going to start with 10 kilograms, but feel free to go much lighter if you're brand new to this, or if you're going pretty hardcore, you can go way heavier, especially if you're a guy. Probably eventually you're going to be working your way up to 20-30 kilos. But just bear in mind in the beginning, go nice and light and comfortable. So for me, 10 kilos is about comfortable. For a lot of other people who have never done this before, 4 to 6 kilos is about right. So allowing the weight to pull you down, you're going to start segmenting the spine vertebrae by vertebrae, starting with the chin first. You're aiming to get into an anterior pelvic tilt at the bottom and then work your way back up, vertebrae by vertebrae again, up the spine until you get to the very top, standing up straight with the weight in front of you. And then we're going to repeat. Okay, so with this you want to not be bringing your hips too far back because it basically negates the whole point of spinal segmentation all the way down. So it would look something like this. That was kind of my best attempt at going back with the hips, but some people go even further back. So just try to concentrate on spinal segmentation, keeping your body where it is. Also, big point is to keep this as slow as possible. Literally try to feel every single vertebrae and don't rush it. There's absolutely no reason to rush this. The whole point of this is to go slow and feel your body. So this variation is more just satisfying than anything. It's a bit of thoracic work kicked in with a bit of Jefferson curls. So without a weight, it would look like this. Your spinal segmenting all the way down. You get to your end range, you come down into a deep squat, and then you're bringing one arm up and watching the sky, and then the other side. Then you're bringing the hands back down, hips are coming up, and you're segmenting all the way up. Again, I'm going to demonstrate with a weight because it's far more satisfying with a weight. So. Okay guys, I hope you found that useful, and some of those you can now slowly start working on. I would recommend, however, if you are experiencing any spinal discomfort or restrictions, you should get a full joint assessment and movement assessment done, because really without checking that, you're not going to know 100% what to work on and what else may be contributing to the imbalances and the pains that you're getting. So even if, say, you're only getting back pain, you really should check out your hips, your knees, your feet, your shoulders, your scapula. All the joints really do contribute to your back. So yeah, I'm gonna leave links in the description below for you to have a little look at, and yeah, make the decision for yourself, but something to look into. Just bit my tongue when I did that.
So awkward to get into this.
It's because you...
Subscribe now.